Hey everybody, Steve here in Atlanta, Georgia at the Martin Luther King Jr. Center, National Park, National Memorial. His gravesite is right here, and I've seen many people visit his gravesite, and I've seen photos and videos before, but I had no idea that the home where he was born is just one block up this way here, and Ebenezer Baptist Church is just a block this way. Well, actually it's just right next door to the entrance to the National Memorial. So all of these things are right here together. Coming here has been on my bucket list for many years now. It's an early morning. It's a Monday morning around 9 o'clock. So there's not a lot of people here, which is good. I was also very surprised to discover that they have parking, free parking here, and quite a bit of it right behind the buildings here. I had a feeling it was going to be very difficult to find a parking place, but it wasn't at all. And I didn't realize there was an eternal flame here. This is really beautiful, and I also didn't know until coming here today that his birthplace, he was born at home, and his house is just a block this way. It's just right across the street. So he was born a few hundred yards from where he's buried. This entire compound here is really impressive. Just one of the nicest final resting places and memorials I've ever seen. I'm so happy to see that. It says the eternal flame symbolizes the continuing effort to realize Dr. King's ideals for the beloved community, which requires lasting personal commitment that cannot weaken when faced with obstacles. I'm going to walk over to his house first, and then I'll come back and show you his gravesite. As I mentioned, I've seen lots of YouTubers visit his gravesite, but I've never seen anyone visit his house. This sidewalk plaque reads that he was born in this house on January 15th, 1929. That also happens to be the year the Great Depression in this country started, and it lasted for the first 10 years of his life. I'm guessing that it helped prepare him for the struggles that were still to come. I've been here for about 10 minutes, and already at least a dozen or more people have showed up to see the house just like me. For a Monday morning, that's pretty impressive. The sign says they do give tours of the interior, but unfortunately I'm here a little bit too early. I love old homes like this and old historic neighborhoods like this, especially when they've been preserved so nicely. I really do feel like I've stepped back in time and back into history this morning. Some of you may remember that almost 3 years ago to the day, in 2019, I visited the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee, where King was assassinated on April 4th, 1968. For those of you who missed it, here's a couple of minutes of that visit now. I'm here early in the morning before the museum opens, and it's actually closed today, but I wanted to at least stop by and see the outside. It's so nice that they've kept this up looking the way it did back in 1968 on that awful day. It really takes you back to that day. I remember how awful it was. So here's the room right here. And I'm sure you've probably all seen the pictures. So this is familiar, but to be here in person is pretty moving. Even after all these years, it's been more than 50 years, it's difficult to be here in this spot and to see this in person.
One of the most tragic events in our nation's history gave rise to one of the most celebrated.
The National Civil Rights Museum opened today in Memphis, Tennessee, but instead of a ribbon-cutting ceremony, a chain symbolizing slavery was cut.
Recognizing the symbolic importance of the Lorraine Motel after Dr. King's death, the motel owner, Walter Bailey, preserved the room where Dr. King last stayed as a shrine to the civil rights hero. But in the years following the assassination, the motel struggled to remain in business, and in 1982 went into foreclosure. A group of prominent local citizens, including Charles Scruggs, A.W. Willis, and D. Army Bailey, organized supporters from near and far to save the motel.
The Lorraine Motel was put up for sale on the auction block. A group of black businessmen bought it for $144,000. They plan to make it a civil rights memorial.
With the help of the city of Memphis, Shelby County, and the state of Tennessee, they began to design and build what would become the National Civil Rights Museum, which opened in 1991.
The day after King died, the first of his 3 funeral services was held at the funeral home where he was taken in Memphis. 4 days later, on April 9th, A second funeral service took place here at Ebenezer Baptist Church, where both King and his father had served as pastors. It was a private service for friends and family, which included many national and international leaders and dignitaries. Some 1,300 people attended the service. A public service then followed at his alma mater, Morehouse College. He was then laid to rest at nearby Southview Cemetery. 2 years later, in 1970, he was reburied here at this National Historic Site. As you can see, it says, "We will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like water." Very symbolic, very beautiful. I kind of always wondered why their crypts were right in the middle of the pond here. But it makes sense. It would just be, I'm sure, it would be very difficult to keep people from kissing the graves, kissing the crypts, and writing on them and leaving messages. I mean, that's what people do at grave sites of people they love. So it wouldn't be a surprise, but having it far away where you can't get into the water, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm sure they must have thought of that when they created this center. Now it's funny, not only do they have the sign saying that you're not allowed in the pool, but the intercom comes on periodically to tell you that you're not allowed in the pool. So I guess, especially maybe in the summer when it's really warm, it's probably hard to keep people out of the pool. It looks very inviting. So his epitaph reads, free at last, thank God Almighty, and free at last. This very famous quote. And Coretta Scott King's reads, and now abide faith, hope, love, these three, but the greatest of these is love. I'm sure this is very crowded most of the time, especially on weekends, but as I say, I'm here Monday morning at 9 o'clock. I was hoping if I came early, well actually I didn't know exactly what day I would be here, but I was happy when I realized I was going to be here on a Monday morning. I thought maybe there would be less traffic and it would be a little bit easier to park. This week I want to give a shout out and a very big thank you to Becky Mashaka, Patty Burgess, Elisa Raod, and Bill Butchart. Thank you so much, Becky, Patty, Elisa, and Bill, for your very kind donations to my channel using Patreon and also YouTube Super Thanks. Your donations really do mean a lot and help make trips like this possible. I also want to thank all of you who have left comments and who have taken the time to subscribe. That really helps my channel a lot too. Until our next road trip to the past together, thanks for sharing the memories, everybody.